cage, locked with a half-dozen padlocks of varying ages and materials, its shelves filled with ancient tomes, jars and vials, boxes and bags full of the rare, valuable, or powerful supplies and tools that drew my primary clientele to my door. Every sorcerer, fey creature, or other magical being within a 2-hour drive of Philadelphia knew Quinn's was the place to go for hard-to-find items. 2 of the remaining walls of the room were lined with uncaged shelves, full of various books I kept for myself and my own research, as well as various small statues, knickknacks, and other mementos of a long magical career. From the ceiling hung the taxidermied remains of a tentacled creature, vaguely resembling an octopus. Along the back wall there was a small desk, covered in papers and books and an old laptop. Next to it, a coffee maker sat on a small filing cabinet, yesterday's cold leftovers still in the pot. Sighing again, I grabbed it and headed for the sink in the customer bathroom. Once I had a full cup, I wearily sat at the desk and contemplated the documents in front of me, a large map of Greater Philadelphia which I'd been steadily covering with markings, along with a handful of scattered sheets of paper with notes scribbled on them in my near-illegible handwriting. There was also an old book, open to a page on ley lines, the currents of magical energy which fuel advanced sorcery for those of us with the knowledge and skill to use them. The global ley line network is a living thing, constantly shifting around in vast and complex, but generally predictable patterns. But a few days ago, I'd noticed the ley lines in the area moving unexpectedly, resulting in nodes hundreds or even thousands of yards from where my experience told me they ought to be. Normally, one of the largest in the city hovered under Fairmount Park, shifting slowly only from about Strawberry Mansion to the cliffs between the summer and winter solstices. But now it was all the way down below the Museum of Art, almost a mile from where it should be this time of year. I'd spent most of yesterday mapping out the movements and trying to figure out what was going on. I sipped my coffee, willing my brain to wake up, then set back to my task. Focusing for a second to bring my magical senses to the front, I mentally reached out to the nearest ley line. I followed it along to a node where it intersected another line, feeling the tingling hum of its energy in the back of my mind. Once I reached the node, I felt back to my start point to figure out how far and in what direction it was from me, and carefully marked its location down on the map. Then I returned my attention to the node and followed another line, and repeated the process for node after node, line after line. Tracing ley lines like this is done by feel, not sight, so I couldn't exactly look up addresses. I had to figure out the distance and direction between each node as I went along and mark it on the map, so I'd be able to compare the magical geography to the physical later. The work wasn't terribly difficult, but it was tedious and time-consuming. I had to be meticulous, triple-checking each step. Any error would throw off everything I calculated after that point. At some point, my gray tabby, Roxana, wandered down from the apartment upstairs to curl up in the bed I kept for her behind the desk chair. By the time I'd finished mapping out the changes in Center City and the surrounding neighborhoods, I looked up to realize it was time to open up shop for the day. I threw back the rest of my coffee and steeled myself to interact with people. I needn't have bothered, as I had no customers that morning anyway. Could have been the rain. That's it, I told myself. It's the rain. Definitely not my customer service skills. I didn't dislike people necessarily, but I had a reputation in the magical underworld as a recluse, practically a hermit, who only dealt with others when necessary. Aside from customers and the occasional conversation at Brand's pub, my interactions with other people were largely limited to some important professional contacts, visits to the market, and attending the grand conclave every 13 years as my rank obliged me to do. I had long since stopped bothering with social pleasantries. It had been a couple decades since the last time I'd been on a date, and it had not